My name is Sutton Hale, and I'm 29 years old. If there were awards for being reliable, my bookshelf would collapse under the weight of trophies. Rent auto drafts on time, the electricity never gets shut off, the Wi-Fi bill lives permanently in the paid column. I remember passwords, schedule dentist appointments, and keep a mental inventory of everything in my pantry down to the last jar of pasta sauce. Nobody sends flowers for that. No one writes a love song about the woman who keeps the entire life infrastructure humming quietly in the background. We only get noticed when something goes wrong. For a year and a half, something going wrong usually meant one of two things. My ex-boyfriend, Evan Cole, had forgotten another bill. Evan had lost track of time and was late for work, for dinner, for life. When we started dating, his place was a cramped studio that always smelled like old takeout and laundry detergent. Cute in a chaotic way. I liked that I had somewhere to leave, somewhere to go back to. That was mine. A one-bedroom apartment with creaky floors and a stubborn radiator, but my name was the only one on the lease. Over time, though, Evan's overnight bag turned into a drawer. The drawer turned into half a closet. Half a closet turned into his gaming console, his sneakers lined up by my door, his shampoo living permanently in my shower. By the 8-month mark, he'd basically moved in. No paperwork, no conversation, just accumulation. Is it okay if I keep some clothes here? Turned into, I'll just stay at your place. It's closer to work anyway. Closer to my work too, but somehow that part never made it into the equation. I kept telling myself it was normal. Couples live together. Couples merge their lives. Couples compromise. And yeah, sometimes that compromise looks like you paying the entire rent while he Venmos you random amounts when he can. We weren't toxic, not exactly. We didn't scream at each other or throw plates. We just stalled out. The excitement faded, the plans to get serious never left hypothetical land, and every time I tried to talk about the future, Evan's eyes drifted somewhere over my shoulder. So when we finally broke up 2 weeks ago, it wasn't fireworks. It was a candle going out. We sat on opposite ends of my couch. I stared at the mug ring on the coffee table that I'd asked him 3 times to wipe up. I think we're done, I said. He exhaled like he'd been holding his breath for months. Yeah, I think you're right. No dramatic speeches. No big betrayal. Just 2 people who'd run out of momentum. He'd been staying at my place for 8 months, but legally, on paper, it was still mine. My lease, my rent payments, my security deposit, my credit on the line. I'm not trying to throw you out on the street, I told him. Take a couple of weeks. You can stay with a coworker or your brother or whatever while you look for a new place. Just start moving your stuff out. His shoulders relaxed with relief. Thanks, Sonny. I hate that nickname. I let it slide anyway. He said he'd stay with his coworker for a bit. He started packing boxes slowly, taking things here and there. It was awkward, but civil. No slammed doors. No dramatic exits. I told myself we were mature adults handling a breakup like reasonable people. 2 weeks later, I was at my dining table, laptop open, drowning in spreadsheets and deadlines. Afternoon light was sliding across the floor. My coffee had gone from hot to lukewarm to, why am I still drinking this? My phone buzzed. I glanced down, expecting a calendar reminder. It was Evan. Hey, so just FYI, I gave your apartment key to my girlfriend. She needs a place to crash sometimes, and I still have some stuff there, so it makes sense. For a second, my brain refused to process the words. My girlfriend. Not new girlfriend. Not this girl I'm seeing. Just girlfriend. Like we hadn't broken up 14 days ago. Like I wasn't sitting in the apartment he'd already replaced. I read the message once. Twice. A third time, in case I'd suddenly forgotten how English worked. Gave your apartment key to my girlfriend. My apartment key. To a woman I had never met. Without asking. Without a conversation. Just a casual FYI, like he was letting me know he'd borrowed my phone charger. Something in me went very, very still. There wasn't a surge of rage, not at first. No screaming in my head, no mental monologue of insults. Just this cold, precise click, like a camera lens snapping into focus. For years, I'd been the girl who made things easy. The girl who didn't want to be dramatic. The girl who understood. The girl who said, sure, stay as long as you need. Sure, I've got it. Sure, it's fine. It was not fine. My thumbs moved on their own. Interesting decision. 3 dots popped up. Don't be weird about it. It's practical. That was it. No, is this okay? No. Can we talk? Just a declaration that some stranger now had access to my home, my things, my bed. The cold inside me solidified. I opened a new tab and typed emergency locksmith near me. The top result had 5 stars and a lot of reviews about fast response time. I hit call. Metro Secure, this is Jordan. Hi, I said. My voice sounded calm. It surprised me. I need both locks on my apartment door changed. Today, as soon as possible. He quoted me around $300. How fast can you get here? I asked. 90 minutes, maybe 2 hours. I'll give you extra if you can make it 90. He made it in 70. I didn't text Evan. I didn't respond. I watched Jordan remove the old hardware, metal pieces clinking softly against my floor, like a quiet funeral for all the times I'd ignored my own boundaries. Bad breakup? He asked lightly as he fitted the new deadbolt. Something like that, I said. When he was done, he pressed 3 shiny new keys into my hand. All set. Old locks are in this bag if you need proof of the change for any reason. Proof. I tucked them in a drawer like evidence, just in case. The apartment felt different already. Same walls, same furniture, same dusty plant in the corner I kept meaning to revive, but the air felt sharper, cleaner. For the first time in months, I was the only person who could open my front door. I went back to my laptop and tried to work, but my focus was shot. My mind kept replaying Evan's text, the casual arrogance of it. My girlfriend, my key, my place. By midnight, I'd given up on productivity and had settled into bed, lights off, phone in hand, scrolling mindlessly through people's curated happiness. That's when I heard it, a key scraping in the lock. Once, again harder. My heart did a high-speed sprint straight into my throat. Another scrape, metallic frustration, then raised voices in the hallway. Evan, are you sure this is the right apartment? A woman's voice, sharp and impatient. Yes, I'm sure. Just try wiggling it. Scrape, scrape, scrape. Then pounding on the door. I slid out of bed, every nerve on high alert, and padded silently to the peephole. Evan stood there with 2 duffel bags at his feet, wearing the same jacket I'd washed a dozen times. Next to him was a woman with flawless eyeliner, a messy topknot, and a backpack slung over one shoulder. Kayla, I assumed. The new girlfriend who needed a place to crash. She looked annoyed. He looked entitled. The pounding intensified. Sutton, open the door. The key's not working. I took a breath, unlatched the chain, and opened the door, just enough to block the entrance with my body. Hey, I said. Evan's face went from frustrated to furious in half a second. Did you change the locks? Yeah. What the hell? Kayla demanded. We're exhausted. Let us in. Can't do that, I said. Evan gaped at me. What do you mean you can't? I still have stuff here. I told you Kayla was coming. You told me after you gave her my key, I said quietly. That's not the same as asking. Kayla stepped closer, like she was used to getting her way if she pushed hard enough. Look, this is his place. He lived here for months. You can't just lock him out because you're mad he moved on. I laughed. It slipped out, a short, shocked sound. This is my apartment, my name on the lease. He never paid the landlord a cent. I paid you, Evan snapped. Occasionally, I said. Random amounts. When you remembered. You were a guest, Evan. A long-term one, sure, but still a guest. He lifted his chin. Okay, semantics aside, we're tired. I have my key. Kayla has the key. Just let us crash tonight. We'll figure the rest out later. Behind him, one of my neighbors cracked their door, then closed it again. People were listening. Great. You gave a stranger unrestricted access to my home, I said. My voice was steady, which surprised me. Without asking. That's not something we're going to figure out later. That's done. Kayla scoffed. I'm not a stranger. I'm his girlfriend. Same thing from where I'm standing, I said. Neither of you lives here. Evan's jaw clenched. You're being insane right now. I'm being cautious, I said. Your stuff is still inside. I'll pack it up. You can pick it up tomorrow, in the lobby, between 9 and 6. His face went red. The lobby? Are you serious? Very. Kayla shoved her hands into the pocket of her hoodie. This is crazy. Where are we supposed to go? Anywhere else, I said. You said you had your coworker's place, Evan. He's not home, Evan shot back. We can't just show up. I shrugged slightly. Sounds like you didn't plan very well. His eyes flashed. For a split second, I saw the boy under all the charm, the one who'd always assumed someone else would clean up the mess. He reached for the door, hand on the frame like he was going to push past me. Don't, I said softly. Do not touch my door. What? You're going to call the cops? He sneered. Yes, I said. If you try to force your way into my apartment at midnight when you don't live here anymore, I absolutely am. There was a beat of silence. Kayla tugged his sleeve. Evan, let's just go. This is not worth it. He glared at me like I'd personally thrown him onto the street with nothing but a trash bag. You're going to regret this, Sutton. Maybe, I said, but I'm done regretting being too nice. Kayla muttered something under her breath about psycho exes as she grabbed one of the duffels. They stalked down the hallway, arguing. I thought you said it would be fine. How was I supposed to know she'd be like this? Their voices faded with their footsteps. I closed the door, locked the new deadbolt. Then, because my hands were shaking, I dragged a chair under the handle like some flimsy extra layer of protection between me and people who suddenly felt like strangers. I lay awake a long time that night, staring at the ceiling. Every part of me wanted to rewind, to erase the confrontation, to go back to the version of myself who would have just let them in to avoid the scene. But that version of me is how Evan ended up living here rent-free, giving out my key like a party favor. So I chose something new. I chose the lock. I chose the chair under the handle. I chose the cold, terrifying quiet of finally saying no. I didn't know it yet, but that was the easy part. The real storm hadn't even started. By the time the sun finally dragged itself over the neighboring buildings, my phone had already turned into a grenade. It started at 7:02 a.m. Evan, I need my stuff now. Evan, this is ridiculous. Evan, I'm coming over. I stared at the screen from my pillow, eyes gritty, head thick from not enough sleep. The image of him and Kayla in the hallway replayed itself on a loop, her annoyed face, his shock that no could apply to him. I typed back with fingers that still trembled a little. Me. Between 9 and 6 today. Me. Pick a time. I'll have everything packed and in the lobby. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Evan. No, I'm coming now. Evan. I still have a key. I actually laughed, short and humorless. Me. You don't. Me. Pick. A. Time. He called. I let it ring out. He called again. New rule for my life. I don't have to pick up just because someone wants access to me. A minute later, a different number appeared. Unknown. Kayla, probably. Decline. Another unknown number. I tossed the phone onto the bed like it was contagious and headed to the kitchen. Coffee. I could do coffee. Coffee didn't demand explanations. By the time the mug hit the counter, another text lit up the screen. Evan. Fine. 10. Evan. I'm bringing my girlfriend and my mom. Evan. You can't stop me from getting what's mine. I read that twice. My girlfriend, my mom. Like this was a custody exchange and not a grown man picking up his socks and graphic tees. A pulse of anxiety flickered under my ribs. The idea of facing Evan was bad enough. Evan and Kayla? Worse. Evan, Kayla, and his mother? I could practically hear Denise already, her voice sharp as broken glass. My son, my son, my son. For a second, the old version of me surfaced. The one who wanted to text, okay, we can do it later, or maybe just you, or... I shut that down. Me. 10 is fine. Me. Your things will be in the lobby. Me. You are not coming upstairs. I didn't wait for a response. Packing his stuff felt like packing up a version of myself. Drawer by drawer, shelf by shelf, I pulled out his belongings and laid them on the bed. T-shirts, socks, battered jeans, a stack of video games, a few books he never quite finished, the cologne he always meant to wear but never remembered. I took photos as I went, not because I expected a legal battle, but because something in me had finally woken up and whispered, document everything. They'll spin whatever story they need to feel like the victim. Click. His work blazers. Click. His hair gel. Click. His stupid, beloved diffuser that made the apartment smell like generic ocean breeze. 4 medium boxes in total. Not much, considering how large his presence had felt inside these walls. I taped each one shut, wrote his name with a thick black marker, and carried them downstairs myself. The building's lobby was a bland rectangle of beige tile, mirrors, and a fake plant that had seen better days. Marcus, the morning security guard, glanced up as I struggled in with the second box. You moving out? He asked. I shook my head, just finishing a breakup. His eyebrows lifted in sympathetic understanding. Need me to stick around? Actually, yeah, I said. My ex is coming by at 10 to pick this up, with his mom and his new girlfriend. Marcus winced. That sounds like 3 separate problems. Exactly. He checked the time. I'll be here. If it gets out of hand, I'll step in. I lined the boxes along the wall near the elevators, labels facing outward, everything neat and unambiguous. The visual was almost comical, the sum total of a man who'd acted like he co-owned my life. At 9:58 a.m., my phone buzzed. Evan, we're here. I inhaled, exhaled. The elevator doors slid open with a soft ding, and I stepped out into the lobby. They were already inside, Evan, wearing the same hoodie from last night. Kayla, hair in a high bun, arms crossed, face set in annoyed determination. And between them, like a storm cell in a blazer and heels, stood Denise Cole. She was exactly how I remembered, small, sharp, and absolutely certain she was the most important person in any room. Her eyes snapped to me instantly. "You have some nerve," she said, marching toward me, "locking my son out of his home." I walked over to the boxes and rested my hand on one. "Morning, Denise. His things are right here." "This isn't all of it," she snapped without even looking. "You can't just throw someone out on the street because your little feelings are hurt." "Ma'am," Marcus said mildly from behind the security desk, "maybe let her explain." "She doesn't need to explain," Denise cut in, eyes blazing. "I know my rights, and his. I'm a real estate agent." Of course she was. "Then you know what a lease is," I said. I pulled out my phone, opened the photo I'd taken of my rental agreement, and held it up. My name, my apartment. Evan was never on it. Denise glanced at the screen, waved it away. "He lived here. That gives him rights." "He stayed here," I corrected. "No rent paid to the landlord. No official agreement. When we broke up, I gave him 2 weeks to find somewhere else and get his things. Those 2 weeks ended with him giving my key to his girlfriend without asking me. I looked at Kayla then. She shifted her weight, but didn't say anything. "That's not the point," Denise said. "He still has belongings in that apartment. Furniture, clothes, things he paid for." "Everything he paid for is in these boxes," I said. "The furniture was mine before he moved in." Evan crouched in front of the nearest box and tore it open like he was hoping to catch me in some grand theft of his socks. "Where's my Sephora bag?" Kayla asked sharply, hovering over his shoulder. "Box 3, I said before I could stop myself. Kayla blinked, then flipped open the third box. Inside, nestled between folded hoodies and a pair of sneakers, was a zippered black makeup bag. She dug further. "My straighter?" "Box 4, I said. Evan yanked open box 4 and handed it to her. She kept rifling through, faster now, as if she could manifest something missing by sheer force of will. "My work shirts," he muttered. "Where are my work shirts?" "Box 2, I said, bottom layer." He found them. Denise folded her arms. "You expect me to believe you packed everything? What about his valuables? Jewelry? Electronics?" "The only jewelry he owns is a chain that's in box 1, I said. "Electronics are in box 2. "You're welcome to check." I caught myself and shook my head. "No, sorry. He can check. You're not coming upstairs to inspect anything." Denise's eyes narrowed to slits. "You can't refuse me the right to see the condition of the property. That's illegal." Marcus stepped out from behind the desk, posture relaxed but ready. "Ma'am, you're not a resident. You're not on any lease. You don't have the right to enter another tenant's apartment without their consent, and you need to lower your voice." Her face turned a blotchy shade of red. "Do you know who I am?" Marcus's expression didn't change. "A visitor in my lobby." Kayla straightened, letting the straightener dangle from her hand. "This is insane. You're holding our stuff hostage." "It's not hostage if it's all right here," I said. "If something is missing, Evan can make a list and we can discuss it in writing. But this," I gestured to the elevator bank. "You coming upstairs? That's not happening." "You destroyed my diffuser," Kayla snapped suddenly, seizing on a new angle. "I left it plugged in by the window. You owe me for that." I pulled up another photo on my phone, one I'd taken the night before. The diffuser, unplugged, wrapped in bubble wrap, tucked neatly into box 1. I turned the screen so all 3 of them could see. "I packed it myself," I said, before I changed the locks. For one glorious second, Kayla actually had nothing to say. Her mouth opened, closed. She snatched the diffuser out of the box and shoved it back down with more force than necessary. "You're stealing from him," Denise said. "All the labor he put into that household, groceries, cleaning, emotional support, that has value." "He ate the groceries," I said. "He cleaned his own mess. Sometimes. We're even." Her voice went even higher. "This is financial abuse." Marcus's patience visibly thinned. "That's a serious accusation, ma'am. If you have evidence, you can take it to court. Right now, what I see is a resident giving a former guest his belongings and asking non-residents to leave." Evan slammed one of the box flaps shut. "You know I needed somewhere to stay," he said, looking up at me. His eyes were glossy with anger and something that might have been shame. "You told me I could take my time." "I told you to take a couple of weeks," I said. "It's been 2, and I told you that before you gave my key to someone else." "I didn't think you'd freak out," he snapped. "You've never been this harsh." Translation: I'd never enforced a boundary he didn't like. Kayla rolled her eyes. "Babe, can we just go? We can take this stuff to your place. Your place is a dump, she added under her breath, not quite quietly enough. The look on his face told me he'd heard it. Denise jabbed a finger in my direction. You will pay for this. You made my son homeless. You've humiliated him. You've stolen from him. And you have no idea what we're capable of when we're pushed. I felt my stomach twist, but my voice stayed even. He made himself homeless when he decided my home was a crash pad for his new girlfriend. Time to go, Marcus said firmly. You've got your boxes. This conversation is over. They hauled the boxes out one by one, stuffing them into a beat-up sedan that looked like it had been held together with hope and duct tape. Evan kept glancing back at me like he expected me to crack and call him back inside. I didn't. As they slammed the trunk, Denise turned over her shoulder. You're going to regret this, Sutton, she said. We'll see you in court with a real lawyer. You can't treat people like this and just walk away. Then they were gone, arguing as they went, Kayla snapping at Evan, Denise on her phone, already dialing someone to complain to. The lobby door shut behind them. The silence felt huge. Marcus let out a low whistle. You okay? I exhaled slowly. Not sure yet. You handled yourself, he said. For what it's worth. I've seen way uglier. Guy on 3 got a toaster thrown at him last year. A laugh broke out of me, shaky and startled. Great. Something to aspire to. Back upstairs, the apartment felt lighter. Not completely, not safe yet, but emptier in a good way. My phone buzzed again. Evan, you're going to pay for this. Evan, I'm getting a lawyer. Evan, you can't just lock someone out and think there won't be consequences. I stared at the messages, a chill creeping down my spine. He was right about one thing. There were going to be consequences. He just didn't realize yet that they were mostly his. By Monday, I'd convinced myself things might be settling down. That optimism lasted until 10:14 a.m., when someone pounded on my door hard enough to rattle the hinges. I froze. 3 sharp bangs, a pause, another knock, heavy and authoritative. Then a voice, police. My stomach plummeted. I opened the door to 2 officers, one older, one younger, both looking like they wished they were anywhere else. Ma'am, the older one said, we got a call about a potential illegal lockout. Of course Evan would do this. I stepped back and come in. They did a quick visual sweep, more for their report than for safety. My apartment looked painfully normal. Sofa, coffee table, laptop, succulents I was trying to keep alive. No screaming hostage tied to a radiator. No outraged tenant sobbing in a corner. I pulled up the picture of my lease before they even asked. My name, I said, handing over the phone. No one else has ever been on it. The younger officer scrolled through the photos. Lease, texts, screenshots of Evan's midnight tantrum. So, he said slowly, your ex-boyfriend wasn't a tenant, didn't pay rent to the landlord, and gave your key to someone else. Yes, and you changed the locks because you didn't want people with unauthorized keys coming in. Correct. The older officer handed my phone back. All right, ma'am, you're within your rights. He doesn't have legal standing here. A wave of relief swept through me so suddenly my knees wobbled. Thank you, I said. Before they left, the younger officer hesitated. One piece of advice? Might want to install a camera. Breakups like this, he made an iffy gesture. They tend to get worse before they get better. I swallowed hard. Got it. I ordered a video doorbell that afternoon and installed it the second it arrived. I felt a little ridiculous on my knees in the hallway, screwdriver in hand, but 2 hours later, my phone buzzed. Your video doorbell is online. Good. Let the world watch the doorway I suddenly didn't trust. The timing turned out perfect. 2 nights later, at 1:47 a.m., my phone buzzed with a motion alert. Half asleep, I clicked the notification and froze. There they were, Evan and Kayla, both clearly drunk, both wobbling in the dim hallway lighting. Kayla tried the old key. It didn't work. She tried again, jamming it in, twisting harder. Evan, meanwhile, tried the doorknob with all the subtlety of a toddler opening a cookie jar. When the lock didn't budge, Evan reared back and kicked it. The camera caught it perfectly. The door didn't move. Evan did, backward, stumbling as he grabbed his foot and hopped around like he'd stepped on a Lego. Damn it, Evan, Kayla hissed. You said this would work. I don't get it, he groaned, leaning against the wall. She can't do this. You said she was a pushover. I watched the feed for a full minute, heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my teeth. Finally, they staggered off down the hall, still arguing. I saved the video. Then I went back to sleep. Strangely, I slept well. At 8 a.m., I woke up to an email from building management. Noise complaints were filed on your floor last night. Please ensure guests abide by quiet hours. My jaw clenched. I forwarded the video. 10 minutes later, my phone rang. It was Trina, the building manager. Sutton, I saw the footage. We're issuing a trespass warning for both individuals. If they come back, call police immediately. Thank you. We're also updating security. They won't be allowed inside the building without your permission. I sagged into my chair. I really appreciate it. This was the first time all week someone had made me feel like I wasn't overreacting. Like I wasn't crazy. But Evan wasn't finished. Not even close. 2 days later, my work phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Hi, Sutton. This is Jordan from Front Desk Security. There's someone here asking for you. Instant dread. Who? He cleared his throat. She said she's your ex's mother. Of course. Of course Denise would escalate next. I'll come down, I said. When I reached the lobby of my office building, 2 security guards were already escorting Denise toward the glass doors. She was, predictably, yelling. You can't hide behind your corporate fortress. She ruined my son's life. She stole his home. My coworkers on the mezzanine were staring openly. Phones were out. People were whispering. Heat crawled up my neck. I approached slowly. Denise. She spun so fast I startled. You think you can humiliate my son and just go on with your little office job like nothing happened? He's homeless, jobless. You've destroyed him. Your son locked himself out by giving my key to his new girlfriend, I said quietly, and he still has his job. For now, she snapped. But after what you've done to him emotionally, one of the guards gripped her elbow gently. Ma'am, time to go. She pointed a shaking finger at me. You will see consequences. You think you're safe, but you've made an enemy. Okay, the guard said firmly, steering her toward the exit. We're done. She was still ranting as the doors closed behind her. When I turned around, HR was standing there. Come with me, my manager said gently. And so, mortifyingly, I spent the next 40 minutes in a fluorescent conference room explaining everything. The lock change, the midnight visit, the lobby confrontation, the video, the police. I showed them the text where Evan said he gave my key to his girlfriend. I showed them the clip of Evan kicking my door. I showed them the photo of Denise pointing at me in the lobby, mid-rant. HR documented it all. If she shows up again, they said, we'll pursue legal action. This is workplace harassment. My manager pulled me aside afterward. This is your personal life, she said gently, but it's clearly affecting your safety and work environment. Take whatever time you need. Handle this however is best for you. I nodded, but inside something cracked open. This wasn't drama anymore. This was harassment, stalking, escalation. I called a lawyer recommended by a coworker. We met on video that evening. I explained everything, showed evidence. The lawyer leaned back in her chair, expression turning serious. Sutton, you have solid grounds for a restraining order. My breath hitched. Against Evan? Or possibly both, she said. Him and his mother, and potentially his girlfriend, depending on her involvement. Their behavior is escalating, and you've already had police involvement. This is textbook boundary violation and harassment. She gave me a list of things to compile. Texts, screenshots, the video, building manager emails, HR documentation, police incident notes. I spent hours gathering it all, creating folders, labeling files. When I finally shut my laptop, exhaustion crashed over me like a wave. I wanted it to be over, but the universe had other plans. 2 nights later, I stepped into my hallway just as my neighbor, Mr. Alvarez, stepped out of his. Sutton, he said, lifting his phone. You should see this. He flipped the screen toward me. A forum post, my address, my apartment number, my work schedule, and a message. Some guy thinks he can throw a woman out of her home. Anyone want to teach him a lesson? He works these hours. Here's where he lives. He was me. The woman was Evan. My blood went cold. Where did you find this? I whispered. Came up on a neighborhood thread, he said. Looked familiar. Thought you should know. I nodded, barely breathing. Thank you. As soon as I locked my door behind me, I pulled out my phone. I left a voicemail for my lawyer. Then I sat on the floor, back against the wall, shaking. Because this wasn't breakup fallout. This was dangerous. This was unhinged. And tomorrow, I was filing for a restraining order. The next morning, I walked into the courthouse with a folder so thick it could have doubled as a blunt force weapon. Inside, it was everything. Screenshots of texts, photos of the boxes, the video of Evan and Kayla drunkenly trying to break in, the police report, the lobby incident documented by building management, HR notes from the workplace confrontation, a printed copy of the forum post with my address and schedule. My lawyer, Marissa, met me by the metal detectors. She was calm, composed, and had the kind of posture that made me feel like I wasn't walking into court alone, but armored. You did everything right, Marissa said softly. Now let the judge see that. I wasn't shaking, not exactly. It was a different kind of feeling, like my body wasn't sure whether it was terrified or relieved, so it decided to be both. We waited outside the courtroom until Evan arrived. He came alone. No lawyer, no mother, no Kayla. Just him, hands shoved deep into the pockets of a jacket I recognized, one he'd left behind 6 times before I packed it into a box. His eyes darted around until they landed on me. Something passed through them. Panic, regret, anger. I didn't know anymore. He approached slowly, like he wasn't sure if I'd let him get close. Sutton, he said, can we talk privately? My lawyer stepped between us before I even opened my mouth. No, she said. Anything you need to say can be said in front of the judge. Evan swallowed. It doesn't have to be like this. You're blowing everything up. Marissa's voice stayed even. Back away, Mr. Cole. He looked at me desperately. You're ruining my life. My heart kicked painfully against my ribs. You posted my address, Evan. His face reddened. I didn't mean for anyone to actually... You didn't think, I said. That's the problem. He opened his mouth again, but the bailiff appeared and called us in. Courtrooms are both smaller and bigger than they look in movies. Smaller in the sense that you can hear every rustle of clothing. Bigger in the sense that the weight of the moment fills every corner. We took seats at separate tables. The judge, silver hair, stern eyes, voice like gravel, glanced over the file the clerk handed him. Then he looked at us. Sutton Hale is petitioning for a restraining order against Evan Cole, he said. I've reviewed the preliminary filings. Ms. Hale, your attorney may begin. Marissa rose smoothly. Your Honor, this case involves harassment, unauthorized key sharing, attempted forced entry, and online incitement that place my client in real danger. She laid out the timeline step by step, calm, factual, devastating. Then she played the video. Evan drunk. Kayla jamming the key. Evan kicking my door. Kayla yelling at him. The judge's face didn't change, but the air in the room did. Marissa continued. 2 nights later, the petitioner found her home address and work schedule posted online, asking strangers to teach her a lesson. That is harassment and potential incitement. We have included a screenshot for the record. She placed the printed page on the evidence table. In addition, Mr. Cole's mother approached the petitioner's workplace, causing a security incident documented by building management and HR. The judge looked at Evan. Mr. Cole, do you have any evidence contradicting these claims? Evan tugged at his sleeves. She locked me out of my own home. The judge raised one eyebrow. Were you on the lease? No, but shh. Did you pay rent to the landlord? No, but... Did you have a formal rental agreement with Ms. Hale? No, but we were... Living there as a guest, the judge finished. Under the law, that does not make it your residence. Evan's jaw tightened. She said I could take my time moving out. And did you misuse your access to the property during that time? The judge asked. Evan blinked. I gave the key to my girlfriend. So you provided a stranger access to a property that did not belong to you, the judge said, without consent of the leaseholder. Evan sank an inch lower. The judge continued, voice flattening with finality. Additionally, you posted the petitioner's address online. Whether or not you intended harm, the action itself is reckless and dangerous. Evan's eyes widened. I didn't mean... That is irrelevant. Silence swept through the courtroom. This court finds sufficient cause to grant the restraining order, the judge said. Mr. Cole, you will remain at least 100 feet from Ms. Hale, her residence, and her workplace for 1 year. Violation of this order will result in arrest. A single gavel tap. That was it. That was the moment everything changed. Evan stared straight ahead, shock hollowing his face. For the first time, he looked like he understood. Not the consequences, maybe, but the reality that he wasn't untouchable. I didn't rejoice. There was no triumphant music swelling. Just a long, quiet exhale that felt like it had been trapped inside my chest for months. Marissa touched my arm lightly. You're safe now. Not completely, but safer than yesterday. The fallout wasn't instant, but it came. A week later, I ran into Mel, one of Evan's former coworkers, at a coffee shop. She recognized me immediately and gave a sympathetic half grimace. You're Sutton, right? Yeah, I said, wary. She sighed. He really messed up. HR at his job got wind of the court thing. He'd already been missing shifts, blaming personal drama, having meltdowns in break rooms. They put him on a performance plan. He didn't make it. A pit opened in my stomach, but it wasn't guilt. It was recognition. He hadn't fallen because of me. He'd fallen because he expected the world to carry him the way I had. And Kayla? I asked before I could catch myself. Mel snorted. She left a week after the hearing. Apparently didn't want to date someone broke, homeless, and legally restricted. Ouch. And his mom? I asked. Mel rolled her eyes. Still ranting about how the world mistreated her perfect son, but quieter now that it's public record. I thanked her and left with a mix of relief, sadness, and something like closure. At home, I began reclaiming the space inch by inch. I repainted the living room, bought plants that didn't remind me of him, replaced the sheets, the throw pillows, even the bathroom rug. I went to therapy. Turns out, years of being the nice one leave scars. Turns out, boundaries feel awful at first, like you're punishing someone instead of protecting yourself. But slowly, the guilt loosened. The apartment grew quieter, peaceful. Mine. One afternoon, as I watered a new fern, overwatering it, probably, my phone buzzed. An email from my boss. Subject, performance update. Body, small raise for handling external pressures with exceptional professionalism. I snorted. Translation, sorry your ex is unhinged. But it felt like acknowledgement and validation. For the first time in months, I felt steady. Still not ready to date. Still checking the doorbell camera more than a normal person would. But steady. Here's the part no one tells you. Standing your ground doesn't feel heroic. It feels awful. It feels like you're being mean. It feels like you're breaking something. When Evan was crying in the lobby, when Denise was screaming in my office building, when Kayla glared like I'd ruined her life, when Evan begged me outside the courtroom, every part of me wanted to give in, to make it stop, to go back to being the version of myself that kept the peace. But that version of me is the one who ended up with someone living rent-free in my home, giving out my key, treating my apartment like a communal crash pad. So I chose consequences. Not for him, for me. And here's the truth. The real victory wasn't the restraining order, or the court ruling, or Evan's downfall. It's that my apartment is quiet now, my door is secure, my space is safe, my life is mine again. And I'm the only one with a key.